Hariom all, and welcome to episode 3 of the Chip podcast series. Experiencing setback and failure is inevitable. For example, get a low grade on an exam that you studied for, or in a program that you do not resonate with, or are managing stresses between our social activities and our academic coursework. These are things that we as students all experience at some point or another. These moments of defeat can be challenging to navigate, but also can provide great opportunities of learning and of growth, especially given the right tools in our tool belt. So how can we learn to manage setback and failure from the lens of Vedanta and develop a growth-based mindset? Today, we are chatting with Shashiji, a guide from Chinmaya Mission who has supported many high school students, college students, and young professionals as they continue along in their journey with Vedanta. Shashiji, you go for it.
Yes, I've been associated with Chinmaya Mission of your combined age and a plus more, I think. So anyway, it's been wonderful. Part of Chinmaya Mission since 1989. Puja Gurudev came to our house and then again stayed with us in 92. And I think that's all I can say as far as the journey, because there was no looking back after that. And associated with Bala Vihar because I was so passionate about it for almost 20 plus years. And then with the blessings of Swami Tejo Mayanji, I had an opportunity to go to Sandipani in Mumbai to study Vedanta. And so I took a sabbatical from work. I'm a physician by profession, presently retired, of course. And so after I came back from Mumbai, I worked for another year at the hospital, and then I gave up work to be just engaged in the work of the mission, which has been extremely beneficial for me in the first place. And then I think it's I've had a lot of, my family has just expanded since being associated with Chinmaya Mission. So a lot of benefits. And what can I say? Yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. So for this podcast, Shashiji, I'll be kind of narrating, going through some of the questions, so we can get started. So what can we do from a Vedantic point of view to lead a more Vedantic lifestyle as a student, both through social clubs, extracurricular activities, student engagement, as well as academic work?
I was reflecting on this, and two things came to my mind. I felt these two things are so important. One is choice, and the other is freedom. If we can, if the youngsters, before they enter into anything like, entering the university setting, if they've had some time to sit down and be clear about their choice, like, okay, I'm entering into this particular school, or I'm choosing these courses, and why would I want to do that? If they're clear about that, I'll tell you there's so much more freedom in enjoying everything else after that. So, because if you keep something as a priority, that means you'll give your attention, time, energy to that first, and then there'll be time for everything else. So entering the university, obviously, for every one of you all is for a good education first, right? That's the reason you're entering a university. Absolutely. So if you can make a choice and say, look, this is the reason I'm entering. I'm very clear about that. And what are the things that I want to sort of, prioritize here as far as this education is concerned, what courses, anyway, whatever you have of information you have available in front of you. And then you can really compartmentalize and use your time for other things, because this is a very exciting time in the lives of everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, what a beautiful thing. I keep thinking, for 18 years, you're at home, so well protected, so well taken care of. But this is the reason you've been taken care of so well. And, you received what all you received from your parents till then to make you strong individuals, to make right choices, but also build your social connections and have some good time as well. Choice and freedom.
Awesome. And where does Vedanta come into play of how can we incorporate Vedanta in our lifestyle as a student without kind of massively disrupting our
our academic priorities, our extracurricular priorities, and whatever other demands we have as a student.
In fact, I remember something which Swami Tejomananda was once asked. Okay. He was asked, Swamiji, how do you do this? There is your spiritual aspect of your life, organization, and then there is organizational administration aspect as well. How do you sort of combine the two? Meaning, how do you bring Vedanta into your, work as well? Because you have so much of administrative responsibilities. He said, I don't see a difference between the two. So now when you ask me about Vedanta, Vedanta is actually living that, whether you're studying or whether you're having a good time with your friends as well. So, being aware of again, I come back to this choice, that if the choice is clear, that is bringing Vedanta into action as far as your schooling is concerned, as far as education is concerned. Then what will happen, the same Vedanta, meaning the right way of living, the right choices will guide you as far as your social aspects are also concerned as well. So I feel Vedanta is not separate from everyday life. Vedanta is bringing what you studied into action in everything that you do.
So you mentioned that we should incorporate Vedanta more into our life, right? So are there areas where we can perhaps ground ourselves a little bit more? I think as college students, we have a very huge tendency to want to be productive, want to kind of keep moving. But I think Vedanta teaches us to keep still, right? To really invoke that inner peace. So what areas can we really cherish and invoke that inner peace and ground ourselves more?
Mm. So a little practice every day in something which is not overwhelmingly, it won't take too much of your time, because if you say some practice which sort of will ground you, should be something that you can do every day without feeling the pressure of this is an additional thing.
Yeah.
So and I'll tell you how that brings that stillness into everything else you do afterwards. Okay. So for example, let's say you have a small altar, you have your, murti, you keep that, and a small LED light or whatever, and a small japamala, not the big one, the small japamala there, and some of your favorite prayers. And if you're able to say that, and don't pressure yourself for the time, either in the morning or evening, some 10 minutes of prayer and 5 or 10 minutes of just sitting quietly. Right? Some little practice you should start with, I feel, because that brings a sort of comfort, and that brings a sort of continuation of something that was very important, that will connect you with what you were doing at home or what you've observed in Balvihar. Some practice that you should bring. Now, whatever little stillness that brings to you, or whatever comfort that brings to you, means that you're more at ease with yourself. Now you think, when you're more at ease with yourself, anything that you do afterwards is with more peaceful mind. Do you see what I'm trying to get?
Yeah, I remember on my campus, like I had a little murti right next to where I cook, and so I was able to do japa and say a few prayers before dinner time and before the morning to kind of set my intention for the day as well.
Yeah, and that'll really ground you, and then sort of bring you back to balance, and then the day will be going on with lots of things. So many distractions, so many things happening. I'm sure you all have such an exciting life. exciting life.
Everyone's always on the move.
Yeah, and sometimes a lot of pressures. So I think this little bit of coming back to balance will really help you to conserve your energy. It's a lot of conservation of energy. A little bit of that prayer, a little bit of that quietening is tremendous conservation of energy. Now you'll have energy for thinking properly, and then sort of again using it in the right way as well. So I always come back to that, because that stillness that you're asking for, Vedanta asks you to be still within but active, right? Because this is your stage when you have to be active. So that stillness is what that's conservation of energy. Now you can redirect it with clear thinking to where all you want it for. You see?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I feel like for me, I feel like it's really helped me be more disciplined and really kept my frame of mind a lot clearer. I think that this discipline can help us be more consistent with a lot of our practices. Um, but what areas of uh, discipline can we incorporate within Vedanta? Like, how can we be more disciplined from a Vedantic point of view?
Again, I come back to what does Vedanta mean to you, Raj? Right? What does Vedanta mean to you? Vedanta is that independent joy, which Vivekji talks so much about, and that independent joy is our true nature, and the true nature of ours is, I would say, the best in you. Right? The best in you.
Yeah.
So this is Vedanta, that the best in you, which you want to manifest in everything that you do. Right? The best in you, you want to bring it out in everything that you do. So that is, in other words, people say you manifest divinity, or you're able to be integrated. All these things essentially means the same thing, bringing the best in you out into life. This is Vedanta. Vedanta is not some studies that I've done somewhere and that's book knowledge, but this is actually practical Vedanta, where you can bring the best out of you at all times, no matter what the situation. Now, that'll mean in your thinking, that'll mean in your interactions with people, that'll mean disciplining yourself too, because you should be clear about that.
Yeah.
So it'll bring a lot of clarity for you. This is bringing Vedanta into life. There's everywhere. And there's no, as far as I think, there's no separation in your responsibility as a student, in your responsibility of any roles that you take, whether it's in a social club or, some relationships that you have. Everywhere, this should start manifesting. This conservation of energy should start reflecting in the way you interact, in the way you discipline yourself, in the way you give to anything that you've taken up.
Yeah, that feels like, or more of like, we need to reframe our thoughts of how we intentionally use our time, but also like where we put a lot of our effort.
Yeah.
I know for me as a college student, when I was in college only like 6 months back, a lot of that discipline had to come from, bouncing back from setbacks, or from figuring out how to adjust whenever, a friend couldn't meet up. How can I really take the time to move on and really grow as a person? But what can we do when things don't go our way, or when, we've failed a test, or when we expected a certain result and that didn't happen? How can we bounce back and adjust and recover and get stronger from it?
Yeah. Failure is such an important part of life. To me, failure is actually a big teacher, right? And it's a big lesson. It gives us important lessons, and it's not the end of everything. And that's the first thing that I have to tell myself. When it happens, when you feel really bad about yourself, this is not the end of anything, right? And so, you will feel it, but the way I would sort of step back a little, and every time, I would try to give my best to something. That's the first thing, right? And after that, if things don't go the way we want, which is either failure or I didn't get what I expected, at least you have that satisfaction that I did my best. I did my best. That's a, big consolation for you. That's the first, how you sort of regain your composure, regain your, back to balance. And then you have to evaluate where did it, things didn't go the way, right? You have to do a little bit of soul searching at that point, and then redirect your energy, take some help from somebody else. If, it was a tough subject and you did not sort of think through, and it's fine. And failure is always a stepping stone to something else. But at that moment, you will feel the pain, but not to let yourself feel totally disenchanted and miserable and lose heart. It's everybody.
Yeah, I remember a quote. I'm gonna butcher the quote, I think, but it was something like, it was, failure is almost like a mindset. Like, if you let failure, like the failure as a term or an action is a very temporary action, meaning like, for example, if it's an exam or a class where you're not doing well, and like that result is temporary, but if you kind of let it consume you, you're really taking a temporary, problem or, temporary effect and making it permanent. So I think we need to really redefine, like, okay, we recognize that this didn't go well, but if we can really evaluate, okay, maybe this study tactic didn't work, or maybe I need to prioritize this class or this, specific concept more, then the outcome will show. And like that failure was more of a learning opportunity instead of a, totally, you know, catastrophic event where like we just couldn't recover. And so I think that for so many of us, it can feel very catastrophic, but I think we need to really reframe our mind and think more as a learning opportunity, right? Like a lot of the most successful people, um, they really share, okay, the reason I became successful, the reason I overcame this challenge was because I failed so many times. I think the one that really comes to mind is, I believe
Edison?
it's Thomas Edison.
Yes, Edison. I was about to say.
Edison, who came up with the light bulb, right? It wasn't that he figured that out very quickly. It was he failed and failed and failed, and eventually he got it.
Yeah. Actually, the two quotes that I recently read, one was of Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas,
Yeah.
and the other was the monkey leader Angada, Angada. So Kunti actually tells Sri Krishna, may suffering come to me always. Now, who would wish that for that? She says, nobody would wish for that.
Yeah,
she
very
says,
few people.
Yeah, nobody would want it. But she says, the reason that is because when suffering comes, I feel so helpless, but I think of you. And then when I think of you, Lord, how can there be any suffering? Because you're with me, and so there's no more suffering left anymore. But what we have to think in that context is, actually we go deep when we go through some failures, we start looking deep into ourselves, and in fact can bring out some really gems out of ourselves. Actually, we can bring such pearls and gems out of us. There's something within us which we can actually learn and bring out and shine later on. So failure should never be something to be looked on as this is the end of the world, for sure. And Angada actually, again, what happens, the monkeys are all at the seashore now, and they've had lots of encouraging news about Sita ji, that she's there, and Sampati, the vulture, sees her. So it's all time to fly across the ocean, and all of a sudden, all the monkeys say, who's going to cross this ocean? It looks impossible. And everybody's disheartened again. He says, no, nobody should be disheartened, because that becomes a big impediment to any type of success in anything. So he gives the monkeys another, speech to pack them up again, to once again energize them and encourage them. So all those things we keep in mind. Failure is not a weakness. Failure is not something that, is because I was no good, it happened. If we have done our best, there's so many ways we can look at it and reevaluate, as you said, take help. And also, it can become a big stepping stone for major success.
Yeah, I think we need to really reshape how we think about failure. Do you think that incorporating some sort of sadhana practice or some sort of meditation practice can be a good way to maybe not change the result of a failure, but maybe rethink how we think about failure? Or can it have, I assume it would have a really good impact, but would love to hear your thoughts on kind of what the more tangible impact would be on how having meditation practices and sadhana practices within a student's schedule may impact how we grow from failure.
If we have done that practice, if that's been a part of our life, as I said, even a short time, regular practice, I'll tell you, when we face that situation at that moment, whether you want it or not, your mind automatically goes to that practice, because you want to bring back that balance. You want to bring back that comfort you felt at the time of that meditation or that time of little puja that you did. So what will happen is you go to that practice without your knowledge. I remember one of our young Bal Vihar students went off to university, and then the tension of an exam became so much that she could not focus on what she was preparing for. And she said all she did was started chanting Hanuman Chalisa. And just that chanting, that rote memory and chanting, it calmed her down, and she was once again able to collect herself and bring back, her balance once again. So when failure comes, if this has been your practice, if you've taken some practice of a meditation for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or a little puja that has become part of your life, at the time when you're facing that challenge, initial disappointment, initial misery will immediately take you back to resort to those practices. And then, you collect yourself, more clarity in your thinking, more, ways to deal with the situation. Everything opens up for you.
And is there ways, like kind of bridging off of that, are there ways that we can maybe center our daily practices or daily lives around incorporating these meditation practices? I know for some students it can be difficult to take the time to engage in these practices, right? But I think if we try to make an effort to, as opposed to just, okay, I have a 5-minute break here, let me do a little prayer, but could it be more of like ways we center our lives around these meditation and sadhana practices? Is it thinking about the clubs and extracurriculars we're a part of? Is it thinking about the social friend circle we're a part of? Are those impactful ways to bring meditation and sadhana within a student's life?
First and foremost, I would encourage every one of you. It's so easy now to keep in touch with, some type of satsang.
Yeah.
Because that's a great inspirational, a source for you. And it really, that connection is so important. It's once a week, or, with Vivekji's group, so many things he's started. So, some connection with that type of an activity, I think really will keep you inspired and grounded. Brings, you see others struggling like you, or, others sharing their thoughts like you. And it feels so encouraging that you're not alone. That's the first thing. And then, because if you have come from such a background, you'll sort of start to know who is of your wants this type of a mindset. And there are many students who are looking for these type of peaceful solutions for themselves to deal with the rigors of a university setting, right? So once you do that, you can start a small group once a week or something, reading something from the Gita, or again, becoming part of something that Vivekji does together as a group. Then, your friendship strengthens, your relationships. These are very firm foundations, because if you base your friendships on these type of things, I'll tell you, they're really strong friendships. And that'll really help you as well. And so then it'll sort of then navigate what your social groups are going to be.
Yeah.
What are the clubs are you going to be associated with?
Yeah. What you look for.
Yeah, and you'll have good friends with similar thinking, similar desires, similar aspirations. And this grounding, I'll tell you, will guide you in everything else that you do. That if you just have this Vedantic background, this connection, in everything, that discipline will come. That giving 100% to what you're doing will come. Developing good friendships will come. Having fun in college will also come. Balance. You'll know how to exercise the freedom you now have. Yeah, coming out home.
I think a lot of my friends have been a part of different spaces, right? So some came from the Chinmaya Mission and the Chick space. Some of my other friends have come from, there's a Hindu Yuva organization, which is very similar to Chinmaya Mission, in the Chick space. And then I've also developed some good friends through many of my extracurriculars. I played Frisbee and football, ultimate Frisbee. So in terms of finding a community, how can we take different aspects from different student organizations to find that community, right? For me, I found one group of friends within the spiritual space, another within the physical fitness and kind of more extracurricular space. So what can we look for? I know it cannot not always be super clear-sighted of this is what we need to find, but are there that kind of things to look for on the surface?
You're essentially nurturing all layers of your personality, right? Isn't that? And that's important. It is important to keep your body healthy. So some type of physical exercise and team sports are very good. You meet people that way. You're absolutely right. That's also very important, very essential. You can't just be going to the cafeteria all the time and enjoying the good food some university cafeterias provide. I see that.
Yeah.
And then, as far as your emotional aspect, the good social relationships, healthy social relationships, very important. Having good friends, meeting lots of people, deciding who will be your, friends for doing things together, activities together. And then intellectually too. I mean, as I said, if there's some debate clubs and things, and that's your interest, you should join that and again challenge yourself. And if I've seen this as well, people who are interested in music and dance, right? And that's a great way of relief of stress, I feel.
A lot of the arts. I know. I've listened to a lot of, like, on my university, we had a collegiate dance team, right? The Bollywood teams. We had a singing team. We had a Bhangra team. So, like, I found that to be a good way to, one, find a good community, but also a good reliever of stress as well.
I loved dancing when I was young. I just loved it because it just makes you feel free and, express yourself and just have fun.
Yeah.
So dance and music, all those things really will also, help you to, relieve your stress. But in all this, not to overload ourselves, especially the first year of college. You feel like joining every club, you feel like meeting every person there, and you feel like taking all the courses. It looks so exciting.
Yes.
That's where your choice comes. That's where you're thinking a little bit before you join the university to say, this is my priority, this is what I'll do, and having some clarity about it and revisiting it a few times, like quietly, when you have some moment, am I sort of once again back to this, is a very useful exercise.
Some level, I believe you need some vairagya, right? Some way of discerning between right and wrong and between the different choices that you have.
Sometimes you might not make those choices. I mean, you might not have been having that clear vairagya, and
that could be a possibility as well.
And if you make a few goof ups, it's okay. I think you learn from that, and you to be, I remember somebody again, an elder person in our house, telling me that he used to learn swimming in the village when he was growing up in a well, and they would tie a rope and then let him down, and his father, it's quite a scary thing, but the father knew that this was safe in the sense there was somebody who was a good swimmer who was always there, and he had a bait rope tied around his waist. I was petrified listening to it, but some amount of a little bit of risk taking sometimes is there in life, but with what type of balance there is, what type of safety there is. So these things, especially when you're young, I think you do a few experimentation in that way, being careful.
Yeah, I think test the waters a little bit, right?
Test the waters, yes, be careful.
If as we kind of wrap up our discussion, is there any advice or anything you want to share with us and kind of the audience as well?
This is an extraordinarily exciting time of your lives, and your parents have raised you for this, remember. So as far as parents are concerned, I always tell all the parents, this is a time you really done your job and you want your child to do well, succeed, and be independent. So let them grow with and spread their wings and do well. This is for the parents. And so don't keep on saying, why didn't you call me? Doing this and every time.
Give them some independence.
Yes, give independence. And for children, I would say, you've been groomed for this actually from your loving parents. And so now it is for you to make the most of this, give back as much as you can. You ground yourself. Remember what the scriptures have. I don't know if you've studied the Taittiriya Upanishad, but it says, now it's the time for you to study really well, bring that discipline and do your best at your education, because that's what you're going for. But once you make the choice, I'll tell you, you'll have the time and freedom to enjoy so many other things in a very balanced way, which is good for you as well, which will actually serve you well. So you'll be actually happy individuals When you're happy individuals, there is no doubt you'll be successful.
That's a perfect quote or kind of way to wrap up the discussion. To leave, kind of for someone who's listening, if they want to change an action or start small, what is a meaningful or a small way they can design their everyday life to be more meaningful?
A meaningful life comes when you can give your very best to whatever little task that you take. Whatever. It might be small, but doesn't matter, So can I sort of give my best to this task at hand right now? I think that'll set the, your intention for bigger things which will come as well. So just take up whatever things which are small, which is in front of you right there, and be there and do your best. So Gurudev's words would be, let your mind be where your hands are, right? That's exactly.
Be present, right? I think that's something.
That's it. Present.
Many of us don't do well we always either think about a past action or the future that's coming, but rarely do we choose to keep our mind present and also keep our hands and mind in sync with each other as well.
All this leads to the most sublime message of Vedanta, actually. When you say keep your mind where your hands are or whatever, that means being in the present, whatever you said. That present is the presence, being in the presence of that God. It might take some years to understand, but I'll tell you that being of now that you hear, whatever, is being in sync with the best in you. And the best in you is that divinity. That is that truth, that God, whatever you want to call it. So if you can do that, keep your mind where your hands are, that is called the present, which is the best present, because you're in the presence. And that's the best presence.
Hari Om, this was the great discussion, Shashiji. This is the kind of conclusion of this podcast. Thank you so much for this discussion, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Raj.